Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this is continue reading in the Advaita Prakasha by Ishana Nagara. This is Chaitanya Lila. It's chapter 12. And we're finding out a lot more about the pastimes of Lord Advaita because Ishana Nagara is a disciple of Lord Advaita. We found out in the last chapter, or it was one of the previous chapters, maybe the one before that, but one of the previous chapters, he told us that when he was 5 years old, his mother approached Lord Advaita to be accepted as a disciple. And he was only 5 years old. And so he was raised intimately. He was treated just like Lord Advaita's own son by Lord Advaita's wives also treated him like he was their own son. So he's recounting these wonderful pastimes of the personality of Godhead as he manifests as Lord Advaita in Chaitanya Lila. So this is chapter 12. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Ma Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastai Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharani Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paskitadi Satani. All glories to Sri Chaitanya. All glories to Sitanath. All glories to Nityananda, along with all the devotees. One day, when Shri Advaita Veda Panchanana was teaching the philosophy of the Vedas to his students, Gauranga and Gadadhar came to his place to study. When Advaita Prabhu saw them, he affectionately chuckled and called them near. Understanding his indication, Gaur and Gadadhar approached and offered Advaita Acharya their respects in order to teach people proper behavior. Advaita embraced the two, and then the three sat down together. Shri Advaita then gently asked Gaurachandra, "Tell me exactly where you're coming from. I'm seeing you after many days. What have you studied all this time?" Gaur replied, "Listen, O Gurudev, I'm now coming here from Vijayanagara. I've come here to learn the meaning of the Vedas. I have no interest in other scriptures." After saying this, Gauranga slightly smiled. Understanding Advaita's mind, Gadadhar replied, "Listen, O Veda Panchanana, I will explain what Gauranga studied from the beginning. He first completed studying grammar from Gangadas Pandit in 2 years. He studied literary embellishments the next 2 years, and then he went to Sri Vishnu Mishra's to study astrology and the Smritis for 2 years. He next went to Sudarshan Pandit and studied the 6 branches of philosophy for 2 years. The following 2 years he studied logic under Vasudeva Sarvabhauma. Now he has come to study the Vedas under you." Hearing this, Advaita Acharya's happiness increased unlimitedly, and he said, "He must have the ability to remember everything he hears." Hearing his glorification, Mahaprabhu lowered his head. At that time, one student asked him a question. "How can one know that the Supreme Brahman exists?" Gaur replied, "I imagine that the creation itself is direct proof of his existence." The student then said, "But the creation is eternally existing by its own nature." Gaur replied, How can something temporary become eternal? The student countered, atoms are eternal. Gaur then said, dull matter is never the cause of activity. There are 5 factors behind all activities. Saintly persons say one of them is the Supreme Lord. Without a cause there cannot be activity. The cause of all action must have all potencies. They gave so many arguments in this way that I am unable to write. At that time Krishnadas appeared there. The 5-year-old son of Advaita gently smiled and then spoke the essence of all conclusion. O students, first acquire the eyes of devotion, then you will immediately see the form of the Lord before you. You cannot recognize someone standing directly before you, so I feel sorry for your ignorance. Advaita Prabhu said, well done. And then he roared in ecstasy. He embraced Krishnadas and then danced in various ways. Then Mahaprabhu took Krishnadas on his lap and blissfully gave him the name Krishna Mishra. Thereafter Advaita began to carefully teach the Vedas to Gaur, who studied diligently. Listen now to this wonderful story. One day, the Universal Mother Sita Devi, whose life is dedicated to the service of Gaur, set aside for Gaur some of his favorite champa, bananas. When she went to take bath in the Ganges, Krishna Mishra saw that the house was empty, and he began looking for something to eat. While searching, he found those champa bananas. That eternal servant of Krishna then considered to himself, Mother desires to feed these bananas to Gauranga. If I eat them, it will be an offense. Then again he thought, but I can eat them after they're offered. Then they will be Gauranga's prasad, so there'll be no offense. He first chanted the mantra Om, and then he offered the bananas to Gaur by chanting Gaur Namah. Considering the bananas to be Mahaprasad, he touched them to his head and he joyfully ate them. After Mother Sita finished her bath in the Ganges, she returned home and thought about offering the bananas to Gaur. But when she saw that the bananas were not where she had kept them, she felt sorry and understood that one of her sons must have eaten them. She first called Achyutananda and inquired, I had kept some bananas for Gaur. Who has eaten them? Achyutananda replied, Mother, you know everything. You know my mind and behavior. Once, due to my childish frivolity, I drank some milk that was meant for Gaur. You chastised me, and I learned my lesson. How can a fallen soul like me describe the glories of Achyutananda, who's non-different from Shri Krishna Chaitanya? In the mood of Gaur, he drank the milk that was meant for Gaur, and as a result his mother slapped him. Everyone was struck with wonder when they saw that slap mark on Gaur's body. The Supreme Lord's eternal associates and devotional service both possess inconceivable potency. The scriptures state that devotional service and devotees are non-different from Krishna. Sita then called Krishnadas and asked him, Who ate the bananas that were meant for Gaur? And Krishna Mishra replied, Mother, what's wrong? I offered them to Gaur before I ate them. On hearing this, Mother Sita slightly smiled and then began to chase the boy with a stick. Krishna Mishra ran in fear to his father Advaita, who saw Sita chasing the boy and said, Don't beat him. Let me hear what happened. Being checked by Advaita, Sita restrained herself, and Advaita Prabhu asked, What has Krishna Mishra done wrong? Krishna Mishra gently replied, Mother set aside some bananas for Gaur, so after offering them to Gaur, I knew there was nothing wrong in eating them. Advaita Prabhu inquired, What mantra did you use to offer them? The child replied, Om Gauraya Namaha. Advaita Prabhu then said, Instead of Gauraya, it is proper to say Krishnaya. The child replied, Krishna's name is included in the name of Gaur. Advaita was amazed to hear the child's reply. He kissed the boy's face in ecstatic love. Sita Devi was fascinated to hear the child's conclusion and considered her son to be most glorious. Then, as everyone was called for taking meal, Gaur said, I've already eaten. Advaita Prabhu inquired, where have you eaten? Gaur replied, while I was sleeping, someone fed me bananas. Saying this, Gaur belched, and everyone was amazed to smell the fragrance of bananas. Advaita thought, Krishna is controlled by his devotees, therefore Gaur surely ate the bananas that Krishna Misra offered. I'm most fortunate to have such a son whose glories can sanctify the entire world. As Shri Advaita thought in this way, his heart was saturated with loving affection, and tears flowed incessantly from his eyes. Sita became overwhelmed with loving ecstasy on hearing what had happened. She thought, there's no limit to my son's good fortune. I'm certainly fortunate to be the mother of such a precious child, who is a pure devotee of Krishna. Then, one day, a Brahmin boy came before Advaitacharya and offered obeisances at his feet. Shri Advaita asked him, whose son are you? Please tell me what brought you here. The son of a Brahmin said, I'm your loving servant. I'm known as Lokanath Chakravarti. I'm the son of Padmanabha Chakravarti, who is well known in Yashohar as the object of your mercy. Advaita Prabhu embraced him and said, now I recognize you. Lokanath said, you have purified me. Then Advaita Prabhu said, how is everyone in your house? And Lokanath answered, everything's fine by your mercy. Advaita Prabhu asked, why have you come so far all alone? Lokanath replied, I came to study from you. Advaita Prabhu then said, that's nice. Stay here. Study as you desire. Lokanath said, my father wants me to study the nectarine pastimes of Krishna from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Advaita Prabhu said, your father is absorbed in devotional service, always eager to relish the nectar of Srimad Bhagavatam. Thereafter Lokanath began to study Srimad Bhagavatam and its commentary with Gadadhar Pandit. As Sri Gaurachandra heard the two recite Srimad Bhagavatam, he felt great ecstasy and remembered the meaning of those verses. One day, Sitana thought to herself that it was an auspicious day to perform the rice-giving ceremony for Gopal. Listen now to the wonderful pastime that took place that day. According to custom, different items were put in front of the child, but Sri Gopal did not touch any of those items. He touched the lotus feet of Sri Gauranga. Seeing this, my Prabhu was overwhelmed in love and said, this child will be the crown jewel amongst devotees. The feet of the Brahmins are almost equal to the feet of Vishnu, because the Brahmins' feet are the abode of all holy places. While glorifying the Brahmins in this way, Shri Advaita Prabhu revealed that Lord Gauranga's actual position. As a result, the devotees present there all became blissful, began chanting the holy names of the Lord. Advaita Prabhu, Haridas, Chutananda, and Krishnadas all began to dance. Seeing Krishna Misra dancing, Mahaprabhu smiled, and then the devotees induced Gauranga to also dance. The devotees held daily festivals, and their ecstasy increased day by day. In the next 1 year, Gaur gradually completed his study of the Vedas and Bhagavatam. Seeing this, the scholars were wonderstruck, and Advaita told them, Gaur has divine qualities. Gadadhar Pandit's glories are inconceivable and beyond the description of even Lord Brahma. His knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam is wonderful. Advaita Prabhu has said that Gadadhar is the personified internal energy of Krishna. By the wonderful association of Sri Gauranga, Lokanath became a great authority on the Srimad Bhagavatam. As Lokanath listened to the explanation on the verses, tears of ecstasy flowed from his eyes, and everyone noticed he received the mercy of Lord Krishna. One day Lokanath said to Advaitacharya, please tell me, how can I attain Krishna? Advaita Prabhu said, chant the Hare Krishna mantra. You'll quickly attract Krishna. Hearing this, Lokanath became jubilant. He then took an initiation from Advaita on the bank of the Ganges. The king of Vaishnav mantras has inconceivable potency. Therefore, Lokanath attained pure devotional service upon receiving the mantra. Lokanath held Advaita's feet and cried in ecstatic love while offering humble prayers. Advaita Prabhu told him, "Please don't cry, control yourself. Very soon you will attain Radha Krishna." Saying this, Advaita Prabhu took Lokanath's hand and led him to Mahaprabhu. Advaita Prabhu said, "O Nimai, listen carefully. Please teach Lokanath how to search out the absolute truth." Advaita then entrusted his dear disciple Lokanath to Gaur, who accepted him as his own disciple. One day Gaur said to Advaitacharya, "I want to take leave from you and return home." Advaita Prabhu replied, "If you will leave, it will break my heart, but you are fully independent to appear and disappear as you like." Saying this, Advaita Prabhu drowned in an ocean of love. Controlling his emotions, he then told everyone, "Nimai is most experienced in all the scriptures, therefore I confer on him the title Vidyasagara, the ocean of knowledge." On hearing this, everyone chanted, "Jai, Jai." One student said, "Vidyasagara, please distribute sweets and betel." Mahaprabhu obliged everyone according to tradition, and then he and his two associates started for home. How can I describe Sri Gauranga's journey? Advaita Prabhu and his entire family shed tears on his departure. Meanwhile, in Gaur's absence, Mother Shachi was wandering around like a cow that had lost its calf. When Gaur Chanda returned home, it was as if Sachi regained her life. Gauranga offered his obeisances at the feet of his mother, who embraced him while crying incessantly. Gaur Chanda said, "Mother, don't cry, don't cry. I'm hungry. Please quickly cook something." Hearing this, Sachi rushed off to cook, and Gaur went with the devotees to take bath in the Ganges. On returning, Gaur offered a worship and bhoga to Vishnu, and then joyfully honored the prasad with the devotees. In the afternoon, Mahaprabhu visited town and defeated the scholars there in debate. Everyone remarked, "Nimai is the crest jewel among scholars. We have never come across such a scholar." The fame of Gaur's scholarship gradually spread like the rays of the sun. Now, hear how his marriage took place in Navadvip. The saintly king Bhishmaka appeared in the form of Vallabhacharya. He was respected as a cultured Brahmin due to his good nature and family heritage. His daughter Lakshmi was an incarnation of the Lord's pleasure potency. She was most beautiful and endowed with all good qualities. My Prabhu said that Lakshmi, who was accepted in marriage by Sri Gaurachandra, was an incarnation of Rukmini. Gauranga then opened a school for students to study the scriptures according to their desire. Shri Achyutananda, the son of Advaita, attended that school. He was as intelligent as Brihaspati and most expert in the scriptures. Mahaprabhu was overjoyed to have him as a student in his school, and he taught Achyuta grammar and literary embellishments. One day, Achyutananda inquired from Sri Gaurachandra, "How can the moon be a good comparison to the face? I see there are so many spots on the moon, and the dull silver moon rays are not very prominent." On hearing Achyutananda's statement, Nimai Vidyasagara joyfully and affectionately praised him, saying, "The face and the moon can be compared only in respect to the pleasure derived from them, for all the features of one object cannot be equal to the features of another." Achyutananda said, "Yes, I can understand this, but one other thing has come to my mind. Madan Gopal is Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead. Who can I say is equal to him? I don't find anything that can be compared to him. Please tell what comparison can be made and dispel my doubt." Hearing the child, Sri Sachinandana was struck with wonder and said, "My dear Achyuta, Krishna is the embodiment of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. He possesses all potencies. Krishna cannot be compared with anything, but other things may be compared with him. Ordinary juices may be compared with nectar, But is there any comparison to nectar in this world? Achyutananda replied, "You know everything. The taste of the holy names is certainly sweeter than nectar." Sri Gauranga said, "How will I be sure of this?" Achyutananda then said, "A substance is known by its effect. It is stated in the scriptures that the demigods, who are fond of drinking nectar, become more satisfied after drinking the nectar of the holy names." Hearing this from Achyuta, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's heart melted with ecstatic love. He embraced Achyuta and kissed his head. The pastimes of Lord Chaitanya with his devotees are most confidential. I have no ability to describe them even in brief. Praying at the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya and Shri Advaita, always desiring their mercy, I, Ishana Nagara, narrate Shri Advaita Prakash.